Welcome back into another episode of the Spaceman 2.0 Phoenix Truth Rising Show, here to help you grow in the knowledge and wisdom of truth, and the truth will set you free. With the best history lesson and spiritual insights on the planet, exposure of the Illuminati's plan of world conquest and control is the death knell to the Illuminati and the New World Order. So let's get right back into A Divine Plan Volume 2 and more on the Mark of the Beast and the dream of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. And we'll just see what that has to say. So for the best source of your daily dose of truth, get your Phoenix Journal today. Scroll down below, see how you can get one sent out to you for a small donation. So continuing on, could we now look at further input from Earth interpretation of the Mark of the Beast? Let us move a ways into a presentation on the Mark of the Beast, which was put to paper by some thoughtful person. I can't herein give information regarding that person either, for the request was to not even tell wherein the information arrived from. It is quite well done, and the perceptions are good, if not perfect, for you are working with the untangling of prophecy and visions all the way back to Daniel of the Old Testament, and the one major player in point, King Nebuchadnezzar. This, however, is why I find it difficult to understand how, with Daniel speaking of space phenomena and craft, that you ones today cannot see that the adversary keeps you blinded and ignorant. Daniel knew, Ezekiel knew, so you are again hoodwinked by interpreters, men who tell you what benefits them, and you suck it in like honey by the bear. Well, this latter hint is also good to note, for you, America, are being sucked in as honey to fill the belly of the bear to the north. Hopefully that doesn't mean Canada. You know what it means, Russia and all that, the Khazarian mafia, really. Beginning of quoting. This presentation is undated, so you can know that it is well over 2 decades past, for the sender has held it for longer. So truth will never be old. So let's just continue on. The Mark of the Beast, another view from the mountain. You remember the reference in Revelation to the fact that there comes a time when everyone must receive the Mark of the Beast in his right hand or in his forehead, otherwise he is boycotted, he can't buy or sell, and so on. And like most things in the Bible, there has been an awful lot of utter not rot preached about it by clergymen who don't know anything about the subject, but insist on talking about it just the same. I'm just going to add here in, I put a post up, and I talked about this as this Mark of the Beast could be, okay, let's take a look at Nokia made electronic tattoo ink about 10 years ago. I seen it at 4 a.m. on TV. It only comes up once. And then a year later, 2 years later, at about 2 a.m. or something, it says one blurb, Microsoft buys Nokia. So what do you think Microsoft's doing with that tattoo ink that's electronic and hold information with the software that Microsoft can put into it? So can that be the Mark of the Beast that's put upon or on your right hand or on your forehead when everyone is able to be open to tattoos these days? Well, the majority of people. I'm not really open to tattoos. Maybe henna, because you can get rid of it. I'm get bored of it and want something different. Anyways, the Book of Revelation. I don't think you actually should put a tattoo on your body, but that's just my personal opinion. The Book of Revelation, as I think all of you know, is entirely symbolic, and therefore, unless you are sure that you get the right key to the symbols, you can't possibly get the correct understanding of what it is talking about. So before we get down to that part of it, it is time that we understand what our symbols are, and then we will know what we are talking about at least a bit better. Remember what the Freemasons say about the Bible, that it's all, we take it literally, but they know it symbolically, so we are the uninitiated into the true meaning of the Bible and all the other books. The Bible offers the key, and it offers the only key to the symbols it uses. HATONN. This is not unlike a personal dream. You have to go to the source of the information to find the key. As with your dreams wherein you make the play the parts, and write the plot, so too must you look at the prophet, circumstances, and prophecy. Since this information, revelation, is written in the book, recognized as the Bible, then you have to study it for clues and insight, even to cast out the invalid and sorting the valid. Being said, this is a book I read a long time ago, 3 Resurrections, okay, and it shows 3 times 7, which is the 7 seals. Kabbalistically decoding the Book of Revelation is quite interesting and shows what it can truly mean. That book is by Rebecca Carroll Lee. Lots of people undertake to try to decipher the symbolism of the Bible, and they go elsewhere than to the Bible itself for their information, and they are invariably wrong. Sometimes they try to do it out of their own cleverness, but they just can't figure this thing out. Sometimes they take Hindu or Egyptian or other pagan religions as the basis for their starting point, and they're always wrong. There's only one place where you can get the correct key to the symbolism of the Bible, and that is out of the Bible itself. We're going to talk about a beast, and it is a very odd beast. It's obviously symbolic of something. The book of Revelation is at the very end of the Bible, so we are going to have to look earlier into the Bible to find the key. And the first place we find where it is obviously talking about a very closely related beast is in the book of Daniel. And that is very appropriate because the book of Daniel is so deeply symbolic. It makes its first appearance in Daniel. So King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and it impressed him so greatly that it awakened him. Then, when he was awakened, he found he had forgotten his dream. He remembered only that it was a thing of obviously great importance, and it worried him. This is in the 2nd chapter of the book of Daniel. So King Nebuchadnezzar called in the wise men to interpret his dream for him, and they said, "Tell us the dream, and we will tell you the significance." When he said, "I have forgotten it, you tell me what the dream was," he punctured their bubble right then and there. They were pretending, of course, to be wise men and magicians and to have divine power and all that kind of thing, and they couldn't make good, so he had them killed. But Daniel said, "Don't be too hasty on this thing now. Give me a little time, and I believe God will give me the understanding of it," which he did. Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So Daniel interpreted the dream. He told King Nebuchadnezzar what the dream was and the interpretation of it. And that dream, you remember, was first of this great statue or image, which had a head of gold, the breasts and arms of silver, the belly and thighs of brass, and the legs were of iron, and the feet were mixed iron and clay. Daniel interpreted the dream. He said, "This shows 4 successive kingdoms, each of which is going to rule the then known civilized world in its turn. The head of gold was Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. The breast and arms of silver were another kingdom, which would come next and would be somewhat inferior in its degree of civilization to Babylon. And we know, of course, that it was the Medo-Persian Empire. Then Daniel said that the belly and thighs of brass would be yet another kingdom, and you would know that, and we know that was Alexander the Great's short-lived empire. And finally, the iron legs represented one more kingdom, and there is something in particular that you need to know about the last kingdom, the iron one of Rome, because it keeps coming up again. In Daniel 2, verse 40, he said, "And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." And that language is significant because we keep coming back to that. HATONN. Whether or not you like it, you're also going to find that the same lineage of the adversary, call them what you like, the Khazarians, will be found finally ruling every one of these empires right into destruction every time. Let's read that again. That's very important because you guys need to understand what this is truly talking about. HATONN. Whether or not you like it, you are also going to find that the same lineage of the adversary, call them what you like, the Khazarians, will be found finally ruling every one of these empires right into destruction every time. When Daniel interpreted this vision, the time was pretty close to 580 BC. Within a few years, one way or another of this, Babylon was at that time under its greatest king, Nebuchadnezzar, at the very apex of its power and its civilization. 2 kings later, it came to its end, about 538 BC. The head of gold, no question. That was the Babylonian Empire, which was then in existence. The next one, which would come after it, he said, was the breasts and arms which were of silver, the Medo-Persian Empire, 2 arms united in one breast, 2 kingdoms, Media and Persia, united in one empire. Media was the more northwesterly of the 2. It came to great power first. Later, it was in its turn conquered and absorbed by Persia, and the united empire, but under a Persian king, was the one which conquered Babylon. The Medo-Persian power became very great. It extended from northwest India and Afghanistan across the whole Fertile Crescent. The nations had extended in a great arc north of the Arabian Desert. In other words, from the head of the Persian Gulf on up through Iraq and Iran, as we call them today. But it also included the Babylonian and Assyrian empires, over into Syria and down the coast through Palestine. It took in a good deal of Asia Minor, which today we call Turkey, and they even conquered and ruled Egypt for a time. So starting this tremendous rise with the conquest of Babylon about 538 BC, this empire ruled all the important parts of the known civilized world at that time, until it was conquered by Alexander the Great between 334 and 331 BC. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with the best history lesson on the planet with the Phoenix Journals, and continue on with the Medo-Persian Empire and how that's connected with the Khazarians taking over, not with the Persians, but the Khazarians are taking over. They even